Okay, so I've just come back to the Model tab, having set up these layouts, because now I want to add things like the section references and the drawing references and all those symbols that you'll have in the blocks folder that we want for the annotation. And I've already added some, so I've got this room label that's already been added. And notice that it's white because I've put it onto the layer that I've made for annotations. I've called it A-Anno. So I might just insert another one of those. So on the Insert tab, you can see, or the Insert button, sorry, you'll see, because I've already inserted it, I can just choose it from there. But then notice, well, you can't even see until I zoom in, it's very, very small. Right, so that's the first thing I wanted you to see. Because it's an annotative element, we have to think about the scale. And also when I zoom in, you can see that it's picking up the colour of my current layer. So I've got to do two things to make that work properly. So I'm going to press Escape. And firstly, think about the layer. So I'm going to change to that annotation layer. And then I'll go back and then try the same thing again. So now when I insert it, it'll at least be the right colour, but it's still too small. So again, back to Insert, and instead of just picking it from that list there, I've got to go to More Options because I need to scale this. And so if you notice something is really small, like that one was, it's generally because it's 1:1, and it needs to be scaled to the scale you're printing that plan or that drawing. And in this case, we know it's 1:50, so with that uniform scale option ticked, you can simply type in 50 next to X, and that'll make them all 50. All X, Y, and Z. And now when I click OK, you'll see it is going to be the right size, even though it's playing up a bit actually. It does this sometimes. Thanks, yeah, I've got the wrong block, that's why. Yes, thanks, yeah. So back to More Options. Yes, blind. Okay, so I've got to know the name, which is room. That's it, room block, yep. And then again, put the scaling. Yep. Okay, and then we can just put in those room numbers. So the we've got entry, bedroom, bedroom. So just clicking down here, and of course because it's blocked with attributes, we can just type that in. And the number, let's make up something. And there we are. So going back to then do the section. I haven't inserted that one yet. No, it's not there, so I'm going to go to More Options and then Browse. And then find the folder on the P drive, and it's in a couple of locations. So if you go to AutoCAD Library there, it's in 2019 blocks. There's one there. A few section references there actually, but that's not the one you've been using. I think you've got the one in the folder here. I know they're different again, sorry. So then there's another place, I know you probably looked in the other folder, going back up, it's in blocks, and there you'll find, I think, most of the ones you've been using. And the section one is, I've forgotten now, this one, RefSec 50W. W means west. So that's just the direction of the arrow. And here you only need this one direction. But if you're wondering why I've got all the other ones in the other folders, because it's got the north, south, east and west versions for arrows that you need to face the other directions. And notice that this one says 50 in the name. So that means it should have already been set up for 1 to 50. So when I click open, and then here I don't need to change the scale, because it already used the right scale. So I'm just going to click OK. And then you'll see I should be able to place that on the end of my line. And then again type in the details. So it's going to be, well, let's have a quick look at referencing, because you may not know how to do this. I'm going to make it 0, 1 for the first option, and this has badly set up prompts there. Yeah. The person who made this, wasn't me, they made a mistake. When they put the prompts in, this should say the that should be the reference, and then the one below should be the sheet reference. So that should be the sheet number. So whatever your sheet number would be, let's say it's 006, because it's or even just 06, because it's going to be my 6th page, most likely. And that goes in there. So it's always the top number is the number of the view itself, and then the bottom number is the number of the drawing. So the drawing number, so here it's A110, so that's what should go into the bottom. So here I'll maybe copy that layout. Oh no, I've got the elevations there, sorry, I'll just go to that one. So A110, let's make it better. Do you know what number, I'm not going to mark you down for putting the wrong numbers in, but do you know what number you should have for sections? And okay, so it's a good one to look up, and I always forget, so I'm always looking this up. So if you just search for something like drawing number standards, and yeah, this one, Arc Toolbox, is pretty good. And you'll see the numbers do mean something. So there you can see it tells you. So the first part, the A means architecture, of course. The D doesn't really matter. So just A for architecture is fine. And then the 1, if you go down, sorry, just scrolling down a bit, you'll see the 1 means floor plan or plans. So for elevations, it should be 2. Is the next number. So, oh sorry, not this next number, so that number after the A should be a 2. Okay, so I'm going to change it to 2, and it's actually fine to start with 210, because then you can put numbers in before that if you have to, or you could just make it 200 if you're happy to start from 0. It's up to you. Some people just always start at 210 though, so that you can again insert extra sheets before that if you need to later. Okay, so now that I know that's 210, back onto my reference, I can then go to here. Even though it's a section reference, we're really doing an elevation. It's a bit confusing, but I'll just go with it for now. And so the drawing number is going to be A210. So that's the correct way to do it. And so then I'll just shorten this line to make it a bit neater, and I can copy that to the other end. Maybe just stretch it down a little bit. And then, well, I'll show you a few good tricks. If you want to break this line, you could use the trim tool. If you drew a line, that would work. But there is a break tool. If you click on the little modify panel, there's a tool there called break. You've got 2, there's break and then break at point. So this one here, break. You can pick a line anywhere and then pick another point to break it with a gap in between. So it just saves you a step. But if that's not working for you, you can just draw some lines going across and use trim. Okay, so there we are. So I've got my section references done, and then the drawing reference would be similar. So there's another block for the drawing reference, which is in the same folder, the one above it, ref DT50. Okay, so this one is also set up for 1 to 50, so that means it has to be done in model space. It won't work on the layout in paper space because it'll be too big. Right, so make sure you do that in model space, and then you might have to adjust your viewports so that you can see it. And you can always double click on them after you've inserted them to change the details. So, then just to finish off, now I want to hatch, because I haven't done the hatch of the bathroom floor yet, but I've inserted my text. So I just want to get that out of the way for the time being. I'm going to switch to my floor hatch layer, and then just turn that anno layer off. And then I can easily just use the hatch tool, set the user defined option there instead of pattern. Pattern's great. You've got lots of really good patterns when you need to do more complex things. All those things are really good, and the gradients and everything. So have a look at those. But again, if you just want to do a simple single line hatch or a cross hatch, user defined is much easier. And then you simply need to put the spacing in, so we know it's a 600 tile, so that's my spacing, 600 there. I'll click on properties to get that double option. If you haven't got that checked, you just need to turn that on. And you can see as you hover over an area, AutoCAD's really good at finding the area that you need to hatch, unlike, say, Illustrator or lots of other programs where you have to define that shape first. So AutoCAD's tracing around, but you can see I've drawn lines in to enclose that area. So you need to have lines that connect, of course, the bath and the wall, and then you also need a line there at the edge of the door, but that's come as part of the block. Right, so when I click, you can see it's actually going over the door. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't with this one, but in this case it has. If it misses the door inside the door swing, just click in there as well. So my tile's working, but then you can see it's not starting in the right place. We want nice even tiles that start from one of the corners, so I'm going to click Set Origin, and then just pick on the bottom right corner there, so my tile starts from that point. And then once I'm happy with it, I'll press Enter, and my hatch is done. And then I can bring back my annotation, and all of those things that I've just inserted are obviously going to come back. And then, of course, as we go to the pages, all of those things are going to come up because those viewports just show anything that's inside. And don't worry if you have viewports going over things like your title block, that is absolutely fine. I probably still would bring it in just to make it a bit neater, but the border of the viewport doesn't print anyway. So hopefully that's the last major thing. Can't think of anything else I've missed. I don't know, has anyone got any ideas, anything else you can think? So is there nothing else you can think of that I've missed? Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, there is one thing, sorry. Because they keep saying, I haven't hatched the walls yet. And I know it's tempting to go and hatch them and you know, earlier than this. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it. But I wouldn't, because if you do it too early, before you've done all the other things, then you know, the walls might need to change, or you're going to add things over the top, and then you have to redo the hatch anyway. So I'd leave it until the end, the wall hatches especially. And you can see there that I've got to tidy up the little joins there, so I'm going to use trim and just finally clean up those joins. This is the way I always do it. Leave that until the end, because that's going to leave it in a nice, easy to modify state until you get to that point. And then another good tip I can give you that's not in the notes is that you should make a layer for your wall hatches, or for all of your hatches. I tend to make a layer for all those things. So there, I've got layers for my walls for different reasons, but I don't have a layer just for the wall hatch. So I'm going to go and make that quickly now. The colour doesn't really matter, but I thought I'd usually make it a different colour to the wall itself. So it's all going to print black. The line weight doesn't really matter for a solid hatch, but for other hatches, it's good to use not quite your lightest line weight, but definitely not medium either. So 0.2 or even 0.18 is okay, but not the lightest for wall hatches. Floor hatches, notice I've made much lighter, but wall hatches you want to be a little bit heavier. So then I'll go and use the hatch tool and make sure I go back to pattern, because then I can choose the solid option. I'm just going to pick inside. I might have to pick a few times to get all the parts that I need. Right, but hopefully you can see by leaving it till the end, it's much, much easier than doing it as you go. And then if there's a problem with the hatch, again, because it's on its own layer, it's much easier to isolate that problem, and if I have to, I can easily delete the hatch or just turn it off if necessary, which again just makes the management a lot easier. So again, having that, oops, sorry, not that one. So let's go back actually, but so there we are. So yeah, it's a really important tip. Yeah, try and keep your hatches on their own layer. And so again, that's all, I think, finally starting to look complete. Yep, sure.
This has 4 variations of the same plan.
Yes.
Should we create 4 variations?
Yeah, so it's up to you. So the way I've done it is to do all of it from one. Yeah, yeah. So that's a good thing to try, because then you'll have to use the you know, that option to freeze, as you're saying, freeze and thaw in the current layer, the current viewport. So it's this one here, that only does it in that selected viewport. So that's a good thing to try. But if that's not really working for you, or it's, you know, too hard, then yeah, it's okay to copy the plan and have separate plans for this one. But later you'll see, as you do more developed designs, especially as you start making changes, and that's the main part of the design process, is the changes. The initial design is usually only a small part of it. And so as you keep amending your drawings, you don't want to have to go and amend 4 different floor plans every time you make a change. So that's why it's good to try and get it from one. But yeah, for this, yeah, whichever way you like. So hopefully that should do it. Can't think of anything else, unless anyone else has any other ideas, but no, all good. Yeah, perfect.